freaking parallel universe did I just wake up in? You're telling me, even if it proves to be true, that damaging a lining in the reflecting pool is something that Piro wants to prosecute to the full extent of the law, if it's proven true, and yet they're releasing people who pled guilty to assaulting a police officer?
If you thought the reflecting pool fiasco was bad, let me raise you the Great American State Fair, which was attended by tens of people and turned out to be a Great American State mess.
Oh, stop booing. There's nothing wrong with it. There are dozens of us. Dozens!
And somehow a Confederate flag made it into the displays. Not very Great American. Today's other big stories include a bunch of Trump vanity projects that you and I are paying for. We also have rumors of a coup against Vladimir Putin. Plus, the first ever FIFA Peace Prize recipient has bombed Iran again. We also have an extreme new immigration law in Mississippi and some intriguing data on how health and life expectancy compare in Republican versus Democratic congressional districts. The results may surprise you, depending what you think of vaccines, probably. We have a jam-packed show for you today. I'm Sammy Sage, and this is The Morning Announcements, your 10-minute rundown of current events and the easiest way to always know what the is going on. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Let's get into it. The Great American State Fair opened on the National Mall in D.C. on Thursday, and it has been an interesting affair to say the least. But to say the most, no one went and it looked like shit, or what Donald Trump called, quote, packed to the brim. The fair opened in the rain, the power went out, the decor was hardly contract grade, and there was nary a staple of a state fair in sight. No corn dogs or delicious funnel cakes or marvelous butter sculptures to showcase great American talent. Instead, there was a Turning Point USA booth, a portrait of Donald Trump, and a Ferris wheel that didn't work. Compare this with the original plan, which was to have a giant fair, the state fair of all state fairs, at a 16-day celebration with all 50 states and 6 territories represented with their own unique cultural exhibits. Unfortunately, at least 10 states declined to send official delegations, though some of the absent states have sent some sort of makeshift booth, like this one from Maine, with these chairs. Same goes for North Carolina. The state said that they would not participate in the Great American State Fair, citing the high costs of putting together a state pavilion, though private organizations and businesses stepped up to design one for North Carolina. And somehow, the North Carolina booth ended up displaying a Confederate flag overlaid on North Carolina's state flag on a video loop, which is strange because even during the Confederacy, the Confederate flag was not part of North Carolina's flag. The booth's organizers said that they immediately removed it as soon as they became aware of the unapproved image and have begun reviewing how it occurred. Though at least one of the sponsors of the North Carolina booth, Mount Olive's Pickles, withdrew their participation as a result of the flag display. Apparently, America is honoring our 250th year with our very own Hunger Games, which the Trump administration is calling the Patriot Games, where one high school boy and one high school girl from each state will compete in a multi-day physical competition in the Capitol from August 9th to 11th. You can stream this on the ESPN app or watch a 1-hour primetime special that'll air on ABC on August 13th. And this is not an advertisement. It is simply a description. The 2 athletes from the winning state will win a $250,000 scholarship that they get to split, though it's still unclear what the actual competitions will be. They got to get these kids to DC before they reveal they're competing in Squid Game. From the Patriot Game to the Patriot Passport, Donald Trump unveiled a rendering of a new limited edition passport featuring himself with the words, "Welcome, but be good," which is a hilarious way to reveal that he has no fucking clue what a passport is. By the way, if you are getting a new passport soon, don't panic. You can only get this special treasure if you apply for a passport in person at the DC Passport Agency. All other passport-related renewals will be normal. You really got to go out of your way to get this thing. So, if one ever uses a passport for the intended purpose, the customs agents on the other ends will know exactly who you are. While we're on the Tin Pot Vanity Project beat, Donald also announced this weekend that his plans to renovate the East Potomac golf course outside of D.C. will start September 1st, and when completed, will have the ability to host the major golf tournaments. Will he still be alive by then? This is relevant because Donald took a tour of the course yesterday morning with Interior Secretary Doug Burgum, as the Interior Department will be overseeing this pointless golf course renovation that nobody wants. And after the golf course tour, Donald went to personally inspect Lafayette Park, which is across from the White House, where he has recently been fixated on ensuring that the park has 47 trees because he is the 47th president, and he also wants them to be maple trees because those are his favorite. and I've never known him to care so much about trees before. But either way, Donald has apparently been working on this for a while, counting those trees, and he is supposedly disappointed that the project won't be completed for July 4th. But I think he'll get over it once he finds his next stupid fixation. Rumors have been swirling about a potential coup in Russia against Vladimir Putin, and they got pretty loud this weekend, in direct proportion to how badly Russia is losing the war in Ukraine, that they were supposed to have won in 48 hours 4 years ago. Putin has reportedly been worried for a while about a potential assassination attempt or coup, and as a result, he has radically increased security around himself. But there was a big red flag this weekend. The death of former Russian Defense Minister Sergei Ivanov, who was a key member of Putin's KGB crew. They were girls together. And who was once seen as Putin's potential successor until he picked Dmitry Medvedev instead. Ivanov was 73 years old, which I suppose isn't such a ridiculous age for a death, but for some odd reason, his death was announced by a basketball organization that he was the honorary president of, and then later confirmed by the Kremlin, which is his employer who would normally announce such a thing, even though he was demoted back in 2016, big year for them, from Kremlin chief of staff to some much lesser role handling environmental and transport issues. And we know how much they care about those. So I'm guessing he was totally going to be the one to coup, wasn't he? Putting these puzzle pieces together one at a time. The winner of the first FIFA Peace Prize is back at war. Donald Trump announced on his little social media app that the United States conducted strikes on Iranian targets in retaliation for an attack on a commercial tanker this weekend, threatening to, quote, militarily complete the job if Iran doesn't stop bombing boats in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran responded to the FIFA Peace Prize winner by bombing Kuwait and asserting that they have full control over the strait and threatening to stop peace negotiations again. But it wasn't all just bombings in the Middle East this weekend. Israel and Lebanon signed a framework agreement on Friday, which will involve Israel withdrawing its military from Lebanon if Lebanon verifies that Hezbollah, which is backed by Iran, has been fully disarmed. The United States is also committing $100 million in humanitarian assistance, and Marco Rubio called it a, quote, genuine pathway out of a long crisis for Lebanon, and it creates a verifiable path for Israel to remove the persistent threat on its northern border. Whatever you say, Marco. There's a new law in Mississippi that will let the state's top law enforcement agency, the Mississippi Department of Public Safety, create and maintain a registry of undocumented immigrants living illegally in the state and share that information with ICE. In case you're wondering how many people that is, it's less than 30,000 out of almost 3 million people who live in Mississippi. The results are in, and the data shows that liberals live longer. Cry about it, snowflakes. According to CNN's analysis of data from the Congressional District Health Dashboard Project, almost 70% of House Democrats represent districts where life expectancy exceeds the national average, while over 70% of House Republicans represent districts where life expectancy is below the national average. This could be because significantly more districts where Republicans hold House seats have an elevated proportion of residents experiencing significant health problems such as diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, and deaths from heart problems or breast cancer. Also, there are significantly more Republicans than Democrats who represent districts where the percentage of uninsured residents is above the national average. It was ever thus. And finally, we have a scary weather report for this week. A long and dangerous heat wave is forecast for central and eastern United States with a heat dome that will cause record-setting temperatures. And it's going to be super humid too, just in time for the 250th July 4th. I'm Sammy Sage, and this was the Morning Announcements, your 10-minute breakdown of current events and the easiest way to always know what the f*** is going on. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss out.